on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood, yes, from sea to shining sea, ooh, and crown thy good. Man, that's a good song right there. You ever hear Richard, what's his name? Ray Charles sing it? Ooh, it'll bless you. Hey, today we're talking about ice. I called him iced tea yesterday. All right. I think I was wanting something. Apparently I was wanting something. I was having some issues with Wi-Fi today, and I want to know if things are going to be okay today. I sure hope they are, because my phone is not coming in. Things are coming in late. But I want to talk about Ice Cube. From sea to the shining to the sea. I want to talk about Ice Cube and what's going on with the White House and all this stuff. Good to see y'all there. Aiken and Terry and Denise James and who else is here? Sukina's here and a whole bunch of y'all coming in here. Deborah, all y'all. Listen, real quick like, everybody, so after Sirwalterj show, I'm here. It is the evening edition. Baby, come on in, the water's fine. Come on in, the water's fine. Come on in, the water's fine. I almost couldn't hit that note. Good to see you. Who it is? Martin and all y'all. I'll take my break now. Speak. Speak. All right, I want to take y'all to a history of politics here. Janae, I want to take you through a history here. Keys, where you been? Ain't seen you in a while. Good to see you, Wyatt. I want to take y'all over through a history of politics here and see what happened with us as it pertains to how did we get from the party of Lincoln to Donald Trump, and why is it that we seem to be having an issue, a problem with trying to get America to see the black plight. Okay, good to see you, Cortez. Why is it so difficult for America to see that the struggle that the African American man and woman is having is mostly due to what America did to us? Started with slavery, and then it went all the way through the attacks and the ungodly laws and the perverted justice. You understand? Natasha, good to see it. All right. And all these things. And why can't they now not see that many of the problems that we have had in life, African Americans, were because of the oppression and the systemic racism that happened in America through policies that were supported by those who said that this was the home of the free, land of the free, home of the brave, and that all men were created equal. Understand? So I believe here is the act of division. Here it is. I believe that the greatest weapon of the enemy is division. Do you hear me? The greatest weapon, all right, skin tight 70, of the enemy is division. So who is the enemy? Well, we understand in the spiritual sense, Satan himself is the enemy. In the natural sense, of course, it could be man or one man. It could be a nation, a country. Okay, it could be a kingdom. It could be the enemy. But the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. All right, we don't fight against flesh and blood. So there is a principality lying dormant within the enemy of our lives. All right, but the greatest way for the enemy to win over a people is through division. Proverbs chapter 6 and 16 starts off by saying, a proud look. He says there are 6 things that God hates. All right. A proud look. Before he did that, he says 6 things. He says, no, 7 things are an abomination. So this list is an abomination. All right, a proud look, a lying tongue. All right, now you tell me if these are what we're going through right now in politics and social situations and in religious situations, okay? A proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood. Is that not familiar? Right? A heart that devises wicked plans. Is that not in politics today? Is it not? All right. Feet that are swift in running to evil. Is that not in politics today? Both sides, Republican and Democrat. All right. And whether you're in the middle, whether you're progressive, whether you're the Green Party, the Orange Party, or fuchsia orange. All right. Feet that are swift running into evil. A false witness who speaks lies. Is that not politics? All right. And this one right here is the great one here. And the one who sows discord among the brethren. That means to divide and conquer. Understand? And what's happening here in America, in our politics and in our social gatherings, is that you divide the black man against himself, divide the black husband against the black wife, divide the black mother against the black children, divide the black church against the black members, the pastor against the deacons, divide and conquer. When you do that, then you have anarchy in the street, and as long as you are divided, you can never come together. One of the strongest things that divided America was when desegregation came on the scene. We thought it was something that we needed because many of you wanted to eat and dine and sleep and worship with Caucasian folks. And what you did was you allowed the government and our leaders from Martin Luther King on down was champions on trying to get this thing busted up, Jim Crow busted up, so that we could, our children could be in a class with the white kids. What it did, though, it hurt us more than it blessed us, because the mom and pops in our neighborhoods were left to themselves to fend for themselves to try and survive, and we stopped supporting them. The black banks, we stopped supporting them. The black grocery stores and the doctors, medical centers, we stopped supporting the construction companies. We stopped supporting all of the black businesses, and we began to infiltrate and assimilate into white neighborhoods. And then this documentary, Selling to the Negro, came out in the 1950s, I think it's somewhere around there, okay? And we broadened our horizons. And so since the time of Black Wall Street was destroyed, we had other Black Wall Streets around the United States. And so desegregation busted that up and made us feel like we could be a part of others. And this is why God gave the children of Israel a king, and God never set up a kingdom system. He never wanted it. He wanted a theocracy. That means God rule. I'm the head of you. Do you not want me? And they says, we don't want you. For one reason and one reason only. Their answer was, we don't want God to be our king, to be our leader, that is. We wanted a king because other nations have a king. Do you understand? The only reason why the children of Israel wanted a king is because other nations had a king, and they looked at the so-called, well, it wasn't, kingship is not really a democracy, all right, it's more of an aristocracy than anything, okay? It could be a dictatorship, it could be authoritarianism and all these other things, but it's not a democracy, because whatever the king says, it goes, all right? And so what happened is the nations, they selected the king, and this king began to do these things to the children of Israel. Understand? God warned them through Samuel. Tell the people through Samuel, this king is going to enslave your people. He's going to do this to your women, this to your men. He's going to take this and take this. And they says, we don't care. We want him. And God says, all right, give the people what they want. And he gave them Saul, and Saul did everything God said that he was going to do to the children of Israel. And there we have it. The kingdom of God was established on the earth through what the people wanted, not what God wanted. You got to understand, kingship, kingdom principles was not about God. It was about the people, and God turned them over to what they wanted and gave it to them. So now they're used to that for a couple thousand years, all right? And then he's going to then set up this system later on. You understand what I'm saying, all right? So I want to take you back to the beginning of things so that you won't be trying to repeat it. Today's Republican Party opposes big government. It's culturally conservative. You understand that? Its demographic support is strongest among white voters, and it's usually It usually dominates, that is, elections where? Not so much in the North or the East or the West, but it dominates elections where? In the South. It wasn't always like that, y'all. All right, and so this candidate, Donald Trump, he's heavily criticized for inciting what's called racial tensions or what have you, but he was doing that in 2015 when he was running. But things weren't always this way. Over 160 years or so, the party has undergone a remarkable transformation from the party of Abraham Lincoln. His name keeps popping up over and over again to the point where they keep calling Donald Trump the second Abraham Lincoln. All right. So from Abraham Lincoln to the party of Donald Trump, and to understand how the GOP got that way today, you have to go back to when it first was in existence, the Republican Party. 1854, just 7 years right before the Civil War. All right. There were two parties at this point. It was the Whigs and the Democrats. All right. Now, America is quickly expanding westward. All right. You remember the Louisiana Purchase and all these things, and the Trail of Tears, and removing the Indians and all these things. OK, so we were going westward. Go west, young man, the wagon train. And there was an intense debate over whether the new states should permit slavery. All right. And so the slavery, the Democratic Party, with strong support in the South, they wanted it. All right. And it was increasingly pro-slavery. Yes, right. The party that you are in, kind of. That's why I have to say kind of, because there's something different about today's Democratic Party and today's Republican Party. Now, the Whigs are divided on this issue of slavery, the Whig Party. All right. And their northern supporters are really afraid that the growing number of slaves states would have too much political influence, and this is why this fight over the electoral college keeps coming up every 4 years, especially after a upset like the V versus Gore of 2000. Remember, one won the popular vote, but he didn't win the presidency. Why? All right, because somebody else had to take it. Look at Hillary Clinton, who won the popular vote, but Trump won. Why? For the same reason. History repeats itself. Political influence, which they feared could hurt this influence would hurt free white workers economically. So allowing slavery to happen in these new states that are popping up westward, it would hurt politically. It wouldn't be level. You understand what I'm saying? So the country is debating whether or not the new state Kansas and Nebraska will allow slavery. It was a big thing there. So they couldn't agree, and the party ends up collapsing. The Whigs party, all right, the former Whigs in the North, from a new party, they form a new party because, see, they divided the Whigs like we are today. They couldn't decide about the westward states, and so they disband, and then they form a new party that will fight against letting slavery expand further. So they call this new party the Republican Party. You understand? You're still with me? So by 1860, the Republican Party became increasingly powerful. Where? In the North. That's very important. What's happening in the North, y'all? Machinery, textile, okay, and all these things. Cotton was king in the South. All right, so enough so that the little-known Republican named Abraham Lincoln, he wins this presidency. So even though Lincoln promises he won't interfere with slavery in the states that already have it, he and his party are still very anti-slavery for the South to tolerate it. They're still anti-slavery. Now, Lincoln talked about freeing the slaves, not because he loved the slaves, he was in love with the slaves, all right? He was doing this because he was trying to keep peace keep the Union intact, understand? He wanted to free the slaves if it would keep the Union intact. He wanted to keep slavery if it kept the Union intact. Do you understand? So what we're saying about Abraham Lincoln might be a misnomer. All right, so 11 southern states succeed from the Union, forming the Confederate States of America. This is how we get them, all right? Them darn Yankees. Okay, you got the Yankees and you got the Union troops, right? The northern states decide to fight to keep the Union together, and the Civil War then ensues. The result is a northern victory and the abolition of slavery nationwide. All right, well, praise God. Hallelujah. Thank God. All right, let's celebrate that. Well, after the war, Republicans began fighting to ensure freedmen in the South have rights. So your great-great-great-great-grandfather, who was a slave, then the abolitionists through the Republican Party was fighting so that they not only are free, but they also have rights, like homosexuals do today with this civil unions and things like that, which the Pope has come forth this today, last night or what have you, to talk about his support over gay unions and what have you, which is dividing the Catholic Church. It's no surprise. He's been courting them for years. It's just new to some of y'all. All right. So a year after Lincoln's assassination, the party passes the Civil Rights Act of 1866. You guys been seeing it on these documentaries on Netflix and what have you, which said black citizens have the same rights as whites, right? So they fight to make sure that black men have the right to vote with new laws and constitutional amendments. You start seeing black people sitting in Congress. We had a lot of black people sitting in the late 1800s. There was a conglomerate of black men sitting in the Congress seats that we had never seen before. All right, this thing was getting ready to take off, and if these things I'm getting ready to say did not happen, America would be in a different way. We wouldn't be the minority. But something had happened during the Civil War that began changing the young Republican Party. Here it is. Government spending during the war made many northern businesses rich. Understand, what's going on today is about wealth. It's about capitalism. It's always about money. It's always been about the bottom line. Money, capital, finances. Like we talked about yesterday about relationships. Relationships ended mostly back because of finances. People divorced because it was dealing with finances. Now that's not the case so much, but finances at top two compared to what boring is one, and then finances right here, they're almost hand in hand. All right, so gradually these wealthy financiers and industrialists start taking more and more of a leading role in the Republican Party, you understand? So textile and the Industrial Revolution and all these things are happening in the North, all right? And they began to see that fighting this fight for civil rights of the black man was worthless. They want to hold on to power, and they don't think that fighting for black rights in mostly a white country is the best way to do that, because something is in the way. There's an interference that happened. It's like some of you in a relationship. You know, y'all going strong, and one man come in between y'all, and now she got googly eyes for this guy, and she loves you, but she loves him too. And then that thing started getting crazy and crazy. You say the wrong thing, she going to the other guy. That's what happened in the North and the South. Rich people was looking. The Republican Party, the abolitionists, was trying to fight for black rights, but then they started getting wealthy. And then the money got in the way. The money became the mistress to the rich white man. So meanwhile, the South is resisting these new racial reforms that was happening, often violently. So you see, of course, the onslaught of the KKK and the Aryans and the Proud Boys and the nationalists and white supremacy. I mean, there's an uprise on it, all right? Now, whites could have stopped this. They could have prevented a lot of this stuff, but the money got in the way, lust got in the way, pride got in the way. So most white Republican voters and leaders now feel that they've done enough for black people. We've done enough for you, citizens. We got you free. Now you're pretty much on your own in the South. And that it was time to emphasize other issues. So in 1870s, the party basically gives up on reforming the South. deciding instead to leave it to its own devices. And even if that meant black citizens were oppressed and deprived of their new rights to vote, and the region was politically dominated by white Democrats in the South. So do whatever you want to do with black people. We trying to build our estates. And if you look at some of the documentaries with the men who build America, with Carnegie and the Rockefeller and George Pullman and who else? Henry Ford and Westinghouse and all these people. Okay, they begin to build America and they begin to become wealthy. All right, and they stop worrying about this. All right, the black fight. So fast forward to the new century, by the 1920s, the Republican Party has become essentially the party of big business. And this works out quite well for them when the economy was booming, but not so well when the economy crashes, when 1929 and the Great Depression comes on the scene. Who in walks Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and other Democrats are swept into power, and they begin to dramatically expand the size of the role of the federal government. Now that's totally against the Republican Party. They hate big government. You understand? So the federal government grew under this man in an attempt to fight the Depression and better provide for American citizens. They had to make the government bigger. So Republicans opposed this rapid expansion, defining themselves as opposing to bigger government, an identity that the party still holds today, bigger government. Unfortunately, there was a hypocrisy there because they were against big government, but the government programs that they were rolling out went to the same ones who were opposing big government. So you look at public aid today, or when public aid through the war on poverty in the 1960s, you see that the public aid actually benefited black, white men and white women. There are more white people on the public aid system than it is a black person. But you look on TV, look on Fox News, look on conservative news, and you'll see that they are against a lot of the programs that they themselves benefit off of. They're against Barack Obama's what they call it, Obamacare, Affordable Care Act, but many of them who are fighting are the ones who are benefiting from it. And how do we find out? Through COVID. Many of them were coming down with COVID. Okay, even the President of the United States have a great care through the very same thing. He's benefiting from the very thing that he's trying to get rid of. Do y'all understand? So Republicans oppose this rapid expansion, defining themselves as they're opposing it. So then going into the 1950s and 60s, race and the South returned to the forefront of national politics. It was kind of quiet. After the wealth began to build in the 1920s and the 1930s and the 1940s, all right, you didn't hear much about it. But then the whole thing with civil rights came up. That's why when you hear about the bus boycotts and the bombing and the fire holes and all this stuff, you didn't hear about that in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s. You didn't hear about none of that stuff, if you notice. It was all about sharecropping and Hollywood and film and black people playing these roles of the mammy and the maid and all these things, the vagrant, okay, the vagabonds and all this stuff. You didn't hear about that until the 50s to 60s came on the scene with the civil rights movement attempting to end segregation and ensure blacks truly had the right to what? Vote. This is important. Vote. So civil rights isn't purely a partisan issue. It's more of a regional issue. It's a regional issue with Northerners from both parties supporting it and Southerners from both parties opposing it. That's why you see a lot of the shakiness and the talk of trying to suppress the voting rights and privileges of people, and they redrawing districts and gerrymandering. And you keep hearing these words come up over and over every 4 years, is because there's a certain party who's trying to stop you from voting. All right, so then 1964, it's Democratic President Lyndon B. Johnson who signed the Civil Rights Act into law. That right there started the clock on something, all right? So it's Republican President nominee, Barry Goldwater, comes up. His name pops up a lot during the civil rights because you see a familiarity with Barry Goldwater and Donald Trump. And also Richard Nixon, you see familiarity. History is repeating itself in before your eyes. Many of you don't know it because you don't know the history behind Barry Goldwater, Lyndon Baines Johnson, Richard Nixon. Okay, these people who they oppose this, all right, and arguing that it expands government power too much. So they opposed the 1964 Civil Rights Bill, which was supposed to help your grandparents. All right, it's supposed to make us all one man out of many one. Urbis plurum. Y'all put it in there. All right, it's on the back of your dollar. But Barry Goldwater in the Republican Party was against it. Why? They wasn't so much against it because of it would expand the government. No, it was really more about you and your freedom and voting. They didn't really care about the expansion of the government because they benefit when the government expands in many things. Do you understand what I'm saying? So a massive switch up takes place. Black voters, many of whom had already been shifting from the Republican Party, because your grandparents were Republicans, all right, so who, depending on how old y'all are, your parents might have been Republicans, all right, so they shifted from the Republicans, convert almost entirely to their advocate, the Democrat Party. Yes, so they jump over. It's almost like if you can't beat them, join them. The Ku Klux Klan was in the Democratic Party. The ungodly laws that they were passing, and the Jim Crow laws and all these things were part of the Democratic Party's initiative tools, all right? And we began to join forces with them. Why? Because of a couple of people who were passing laws to help us. So white voters in the South who had been staunch Democrats started to really resent big government interference here and in other matters like abortion rights and school prayer. Very important here. So who is more geared to be against that? White evangelicals. Y'all understand what I'm saying? It's like black flight. So black people are jumping over to the Democratic Party, and it's like the communities. When I was born and raised on the west side of Chicago on Albany Street, it was whites everywhere. And when blacks started moving in, the whites said, we got to get out of here. That's white flight. Blacks were moving into the Democratic Party neighborhoods, and the whites who were in the Democratic Party says we got to get out of here, and they started going over to the Republican Party. If you talk to anybody, e pluribus unum, thank you. If you talk to anybody who's a part of the Republican Party, they'll tell you there was no switch. But that's because they're blind. They just can't accept it. But it was about abortion rights and school prayer. So over the next 3 decades, whites in the South switch to the GOP party, which makes the South an overwhelmingly Republican region. That's why you see so many red states are in the South today. So by the 1980s, the party began to resemble the GOP we are familiar with today. Republicans, then they elect this man by the name of Ronald Reagan, who promises to fight for who? Business interests, low taxes, and traditional family values. What are traditional family values, and who love that kind of talk? White evangelicals. You understand? Now, Ronald Reagan brings up some terms that we found out later on what they meant. States' rights. He kept saying states' rights. That's a code term. The Southern strategy is a code term to a certain audience, you understand? So then as the 21st century begins, America is going through a major demographic shift in the form of the Hispanic immigration. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. The Hispanic immigration, both legal and illegal. So Democrats and business elites tend to support reforming immigration laws so that over 10 million unauthorized immigrants in the United States would get legal status. You understand? But being tough on immigration policies and the rhetoric become popular on the Republican right more so. It becomes more relevant on the Republican right. So then Mitt Romney, he loses his bid for the presidency, remember, in 2012. He gets blown out by amongst the Hispanic voters, okay? So the exit polls show that 71% of them backed Barack Obama. That's how Mitt Romney lost, because of the Hispanic vote. So the Republican Party starts to look more like a party for white voters in an increasingly non-white country. We have a melting pot of everybody in America, and the whites are becoming less and less, and others from around the world are becoming more and more predominant, all right, more and more of the majority, but yet the Republican Party looks more like a sea of whiteness, all right? Given demographic trends, Republican leaders worry that if they keep losing the Hispanic voters by that much, they'll lose their chances of winning the presidency. Understand? So, in 2013, maybe some of you remember it, some key Republicans in the Senate, including Marco Rubio, all right? You remember Marco Rubio, collaborate with the Democrats on an immigration reform bill that would give unauthorized immigrants a path to legal status. Well, there's a huge backlash from the Republican Party's predominantly white base. You don't do that. You went rogue on us, which views the bill as amnesty for immigrants who broke the rules. That's why you keep hearing about Antifa and the Mexican bandits, and they're coming over here, they're committing crime, they're committing murder, they're rapists. Some of them are good people. Remember that Donald Trump speech? Remember that? He was speaking to a particular base. Marco Rubio messed up by relaxing some of that conversation by saying, okay, let's loosen it up a little bit. So this exacerbates the GOP voters' mistrust of their own party leadership, who had already been growing. So there's a division in the Republican Party. Yeah, they went rogue, Cortez. All right, so that makes the political landscape back in 2015 more of a fertile ground for Donald Trump. He was an outsider. He was a businessman. He wants to build a wall on the border of Mexico, and said Mexico is going to pay for it. So Trump isn't a traditional conservative, we all know that, but he appealed to the Republican primary voters' resentment and the mistrust of the party's elites who were there, as well as their strong opposition to growing immigration trends. Notice, when Trump was running for office, it was about 20 of them running. Do y'all remember? The Republican Party, they had like 25 people running for the presidency of the United States for that office. And Trump, one by one, was knocking them down. Every week, somebody drop out, somebody drop out, somebody drop out, somebody drop out, because of his rhetoric. And the party was divided. They did not like those who were already in office, because they didn't like how they were siding and piling up with the Democratic Party. Trump came in like a bull, and he was saying the right things. And even though he was loathed by the party leaders, they hated him. Notice everybody from Mitch McConnell to Rubio, to everybody was saying how much they hated Trump. He's a fool, he's a dog, he's an idiot, he's a nasty man, all these things. He won enough support in the primaries to become the GOP nominee for president. All right, so the Republican Party is once again at a major crossroads as it tries to meet the political changes of the 21st century. All right, so it's possible that the turn towards Trump and his ideas caused a remembrance as an aberration, and that a new generation of Republican parties, they would become a super group within themselves, rediscovering their roots as the party of Lincoln. But this party of Lincoln don't go after the justice of black people. It's more so the attribute of the Democratic Party of the 1800s. That's why I say they flip, they switch. But it's also possible that Trump is just the beginning of it. and that the party will increasingly play to the white voters by appealing to racial tensions, in which he has been doing for 4 years. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Okay? Are you learning? I didn't want to stop because I wanted to keep teaching this because this is so important. I didn't want to be here all night. All right? So that great weapon of divide and conquer is here. All right? That's what's going on. Now, you who are African Americans, you are being looked to as an inferior race. You understand? You've always been looked to as inferior, and today you're more inferior than you ever were, in a sense. Well, back in the 1800s, you were inferior. So now 1800s mentality is looking at you in your face. All right? And so what the other side is trying to tell you, not just the other side, but there are many in the Democratic Party as well, because you got to understand the Democratic Party, although it may be more of a melting pot than the Republican Party, you still have those who have white supremacy attributes in them in the Democratic Party. Do you understand? That stuff never burnt out of them like wine used for cooking. It gets burned out in the pot. All right? So you may have 100% alcohol and you pour it in the pot and put it in your dish. It burns out that alcohol. Well, in the Democratic Party, you still got the sons and the grandsons and daughters of those who are part of white supremacy who are still in the Democratic Party. You understand? And these are their children who have not fully conformed or transformed out of that mentality. They're still here. And that's why they talk and act the way they do, even though you are a part of the party, because there's a sense of them feeling that you need the white man to survive. Do you understand? You need him to survive. Notice the banter in the talk during elections and on conservative news and things like that. Notice how they talk. It's as if you are children, you are babies, you are what's the word I'm looking for? You're invalids, okay? So there is, let's bring up now, I went around the block and back because I want to bring up now our dear brother, Ice Cube, all right? Now, Ice Cube decided to draw up a plan. He called it the contract with Black America, Ice Cube. Now, the problem with what Ice Cube did is he did not do his homework by those who were already doing the work and trying to get this thing in on the desk of the opposing party. All right. And so when you watch the Roland Martin interview, you'll see where he showed, he gave Ice Cube a lesson, said, who did you talk to? Did you talk to anybody in upper echelon who really represents you? The Black Caucus, have you talked to them? No. Well, let me show you what the Black Caucus has drawn up. So Donald Trump has the Republican Party under Donald Trump has what's called the Platinum Plan for African Americans. This one page. Ice Cube draws up this contract with Black America. But then there is a Biden plan. It's about 22 pages long. It's called the Lift Every Voice plan. Y'all understand what that is, okay? So one of the things in the Platinum Plan that Donald Trump has drawn up is they are suggesting to make Juneteenth a national holiday. All right. Here's the problem with that: Senator Rob Johnson blocked it when it was a discussion. Also in the plan, the anti-lynching bill comes up again. Well, that bill was killed by Senator Ron Paul of Kentucky. And then they're talking about, well, prosecuting KKK and prosecuting Antifa. Why is it right now that you're deciding to do these things that you should have been talking about in 2015 when you were running? It's the Southern strategy. You understand? It's the Southern strategy. Now, black men begin to vote for Donald Trump in an alarming rate. Who are these black men? Many of them were pastors and those who are influenced under these pastoral roles. Who were influenced under these pastoral roles? Well, their sons and their daughters and their church that they were shepherds over. You understand? He was working with Dr. Claude Anderson in Ohio, Ice Cube, that's not what he said on that interview. He was shocked that, wait, I'd never seen this. Watch the interview. He was like, wait, oh, okay, well, I guess we're doing something then. If you notice that interview. All right, so why did the black men vote? Okay, well, they polled these focus groups, and they realized that black men were voting for Trump because black men appealed to the talk of immigration reform. Do y'all understand? Black men voted for Trump for immigration. You're like, what? Yes. Can y'all put in the comments, why do you think black men were voting for Donald Trump due to immigration reform? When black folk, we don't worry about immigration as a people. Another race worried about immigration, but why do you think black men were worried about that? Can y'all tell me in the comments? Because I've been ignoring y'all, but I had to teach. I had to teach y'all. I'm sorry. Y'all mad at me for teaching? Because I'm going to have to go back and read all these comments because I missed all of them. But I had to teach. Why do y'all think? Janae said jobs. The awkward one. I'm sorry. I said the awkward one. My bad. Awakened. I was reading too fast. Job loss. Yeah. Come on. That's it. Jobs. Hey, Noreen Jackson, you behaving over here? Cause tired of you. Jobs. Yes. They thought they were losing the jobs to the Mexicans. That's exactly it. So black man says, I'm losing my job. All right. So Trump was talking about that so much that the church said, let's do something about that. Okay. Number 2, the Democrats appeal to more black women than black men. Can y'all put in the comments? Why do the Democrats appeal to more black women than they do black men? Can y'all please tell me? Concur. I've actually heard it from black men. Yeah. Yep. Jobs. All right. Now, that don't bother me whatsoever. I'm not worried about losing jobs to immigrants because I created my own jobs, and this is why when I come on my show, although there's about 115 of y'all watching right now, but that's not. Sometimes that's a typical number that I get, but I see some of these shows that gets thousands and thousands of people who are watching at one time, and they're talking about nothing but scandal. All right, nothing. When I go over there to those business sites, though, where some Caucasian person or some Indian person is talking about it, thousands of people go over there because they want to know how I can come out of this. So the black man, your plight is that you keep waiting for someone to do something for you, all right? So the mentality of some of those on the white side who are saying to themselves, the black man depend on us, we got to rescue them. Much of that is correct because you don't want to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. You don't want to create jobs for yourself. You're relying on someone else to be the boss. All right. And that's a problem. So if you're relying on someone else to be the boss, then Mexicans coming over here, legal or illegal, that will be a threat to you. So then you're looking for a savior to talk about how he will stop Mexicans from coming over here, and in walk Donald Trump. I'm trying to tell y'all, employment, women's rights. That's right. Public aid, pro-choice. Come on, y'all right. That's why the women are more, black women are more catered to the Democrat. The Democratic Party catered to the black women. It's a strategy to pit black men against. That's true too, Noreen Jackson. Now that's been the issue for many years. Yes, the awakened one had to say it slow. Yep. Yeah. Come on. They know black women are less likely to vote for Trump. That's true as well. Yes, y'all right there. You're right there, okay? Now, then in walk what's called the First Step Act. This is Donald Trump's First Step Act on criminal justice reform, All right. Now, Trump is taking credit for the First Step Act as if he was the one to start it and initiate it. When you go to Wikipedia, it says the First Step Act, or the FSA, formerly known as the Formerly Incarcerated Re-Enter Society Transformed Safety Transitional Every Person Act. That's the name of that act. It's a whole page long. That's just the name. All right. It's a bipartisan criminal justice bill passed by the 115th Congress and signed by President Trump in December 2018. The First Step Act, among other changes, reforms federal prisons and sentencing laws in order to reduce recidivism, decrease the federal inmate population, and maintain public safety. All right. That all sounds great and cute and everything, but still today, America is number one when it comes to incarceration. We put more people in jail than any other nation around the world. All right. And so this president has taken credit. Well, thank God that he has taken some type of initiative to do it. And I don't know if it came through the rapper's wife. Well, the Kardashian, she came to visit and started getting these people released, or it happened through somebody else, or I don't know if he was trying to kiss up to the black vote. I don't know, but the fact that it happened, thank God. And if a man or woman is serving in the office at the time that the economy is doing great, he or she should take credit for what's good going on. Go ahead, take credit as long as you're helping us. But here's the problem I'm seeing here, y'all, because I'm going to show you here. It's blurred, so you can't see it that great. But here is the plan that now Ice Cube had his plan, and the Black Caucus. If you watch the show, I'm gonna show you my screen. You'll see it's blurred, but this is the Ice Cube plan. The CBW calls for ending qualified immunity, banning chokeholds and all these things. And the Black Caucus said, okay, well, here's what we have put in place that the administration has ignored. The George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, which passed by the House in June, calls for all of this and more. All right. Trump's Platinum Plan makes Juneteenth a federal holiday, but the Black Caucus says the bill would have passed, but Senator Ron Johnson he blocked it. Ice Cube says he wants to make an anti-lynching bill, law, but the Black Caucus says wait. But in February, the House finally passed the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill introduced by Bobby Rush, my brother from. He's a coach. He's a Church of God in Christ, by the way. All right. But again, the Senate leader McConnell and the GOP, they blocked it. Okay. All right. Now I can do this on and on. So the Black Congress already had in place these things written out, drawn out, and they put this thing in place. Y'all voted in the midterm election, got a blue wave up in there in the House of Representatives, and they started putting these bills on the thing, but the Senate was still tipped into the Republican hands, and they would introduce the bill and try to send it over to the Senate, and the Senate would block it. So what we thank God for Ice Cube for coming forth with his plan, and with the hopes that he could work in tandem with the Black Caucus, also with the others who have their plans to see what we can do. So I know we keep beating him up for talking to Donald Trump or who's ever in the office at the time. You need to have a voice at the table, or if you don't have a seat at the table, somebody said you are the dinner. All right? So this is important to us. You can't make a deal with the devil without knowing as much as you can about the devil. This is true. This is true. This is true. This is true, Doreen. Yeah, he didn't do his research now. But the fact that he is attempting to do something, even though he didn't check with the powers that be, I appreciate him, and with the hopes that he can get the young people. Well, he's not all that young. He about my age. He's Generation X, but still young people still watch and follow him. Now, when Trump was running for office and when he won, he started going after black entertainers. He was not going after black leaders who are policy changers and movers and shakers. Notice, at the Trump Tower in New York, you started seeing boxers and singers and rappers and entertainers. Okay, Steve Harvey and all these people, and Johnson or whatever, the boxer, all these people, okay, showing up, but you didn't see anyone of significant for policy changes there. Why? Because the mentality of them is these black folk will follow these entertainers. Or they'll follow entertainers. And it's the Pied Piper effect, I keep telling y'all. So now it's 4 years later. Now y'all look at this. Now, I'm going to show you, let's see, do we have the bill here? Here's the presidential, here's the platinum plan here, okay? Let me show you my screen. The platinum plan. Here's the platinum plan, opportunity, all right, by achieving historic employment levels for black Americans, as well as increasing access to capital for new businesses. This is the plan. The security plan by signing into law, celebrating the First Step Act. All right, we talked about that. The prosperity plan, as the president, to provide long-term funding to historical black colleges and universities. His administration continues to seek immediate and generational advancement for black Americans. Now, I want to show y'all how bipolar this is. The prosperity plan gives a head up, a way of achievement to historical black colleges for long-term funding. Okay, y'all see that? But then he turned around and he signs an executive bill, all right, that does this. Where is it? That does this. Trump executive order could make HBCUs ineligible for nearly all federal funding. This was on October the 10th, y'all. That means that was just a few hours ago, pretty much, okay? Last month, President Trump issued an executive order prohibiting federal funds from being awarded to agencies or contractors promoting racial and sexual stereotyping. The objective is to reverse what the White House calls a growing culture of blaming white people for much of America's social tension and systemic racism in industry and governance. And the order outlines many items and guidelines for how it proposes to engage contractors and agencies on ending race blaming. Y'all see what that is? Y'all know what that is, right? Stop blaming white folks for y'all's poverty. All right? So his plan, his stimulus plan for black people is here, and then I'm going to sign an order to erase that plan, especially if you're part of a historic black college or university. It's amazing, y'all. And this is what we're dealing with here. Okay? So I wanted to talk about this as it pertains to Ice Cube, because I believe that he wants us to thrive, okay, and strive for excellency. And he promoted this plan not just to the Republican Party, but the Joe Biden administration, or whatever he's setting up his team as well, all right, with the hopes that whoever gets in there will look at his plan. Well, his plan was already talked about by the Black Caucus and others, and so that doesn't excommunicate X him out of the scene. There may be something in his plan that might be that the Congress and others didn't think about it. So we're hoping that they're all coming together. So I started this show by saying to all of you that division works. Division works. It works. You divide and conquer. And this is why during this election time, every 4 years this happened, because y'all don't pay attention to the 2 years, you pay attention to 4 years, it's about dividing your vote. You understand? And if you don't want to study and do your diligence and homework, you will always be divided. You will always be the minority. You will always be looking for somebody to give you a hand up. You'll be always worried about somebody coming from the borders over here and stealing your job. You should be creating the job. Do you understand? And that will forever do away with any Yep, press or plea for, yep, reparations. Y'all, all that reparation talk, y'all can forget that. Y'all can forget it. Yes, this man is truly bipolar. Yeah. We fall for the okey-doke. Yes, you do. Sure do. Joe Biden is agent for the New World Order to go. Yeah, well, Minister Roderick Hobbs, is it Hobbs or Hobbs? He didn't start it. George Bush Sr. in Congress, 1990, 91, somewhere right there, talked about the New World Order. But it didn't start with him either. Ronald Reagan was trying to get the New World Order going. All right, but it's really not about what the United States presidents can do or will do, because the center of God's attention is not the United States. It's actually what y'all call the Middle East. When you're paying so much attention, I didn't know some have a, affirmative action actually benefits whites. Affirmative action highly benefits whites. So the things that whites talk against in public policies and programs, what have you, it actually benefits them in many cases, all right? So the world order, New World Order. Now let me say this to some of you. Okay, clock keeper, am I done? Okay, let me say this to you. I get it. I get it. Some of you don't want to vote for the Democratic Party because of one or two issues. One is the abortion issue, and the other one is the homosexual issue. Okay, stuff like that. All right, and you should vote your conscience. I do agree with that. This is why I don't tell people who to vote for. I never tell you to vote for Republican or Democrat or the Green Party or the Independent, the other party, right? I don't tell you who to vote for. I tell you, do your research and your diligence, all right, and find out what is it that you believe in, so that whoever's in the office and you voted for that person and he starts doing stuff to destroy your home, well, it's only your fault. It's your fault that happens, okay? All right, but if you feel that, because again, we're not voting for a pastor in chief. You understand that? So what Christians do is we focus on the spiritual aspect. There's nothing spiritual about politics other than God is speaking, all right, to a political body to get them to look after the poor and the needy and the widow and the orphans and the strangers and the destitute and the downtrodden. All right, he keeps speaking all through the Bible about perverted justice. Who was he talking to when he was speaking? He was talking to both the political people and the spiritual people. He was talking to a kingdom, and in the kingdom is both spiritual and political. The king served not a spiritual position. The king served a political position. Now, thank God they did have some spiritual kings, okay? But Saul started off, seemed to be spiritual, but he was all mostly political. He was doing some dastardly things, and David got in there and he was more of a spiritual king, but you had to still be 50-50 here and there, okay? And then these evil kings came on the scene, and Manasseh being one of the big ones, and they were political, and they were evil, okay? So when you're trying to vote for someone based off of your religious beliefs, good luck. For trying to find someone that fits all of your spiritual. And this is how the Republican Party fell for the white evangelicals, fell for the rope-a-dope of Donald Trump, who was talking spiritual, but was doing evil. Do you understand? He was talking spiritual, he was using spiritual terms, and a good Jim Jones character does that. Speak spiritual matters with the hopes that one day you will be drinking Kool-Aid. All right, so you vote for whoever you want to, but you need to be trying to look after somebody. If you're going to vote, think about your family, think about your home, think about your finances, think about your health. So when you look at the policies of these two individuals or the four, depending if what you're talking, who we talking about, when you are looking into their policies and you are only going after abortion, okay, saying you won't vote because of only abortion, but yet there's 10 other things that could possibly get you pushed out of a hole, both in your natural body, so the health care and finances and taxes and losing your home and all the in war and all these things, but you just focus on just the abortion end, then you may have to look at that thing. How much more important is the abortion end is to you than all this other stuff? Because to be honest with you, if you're not looking at the big picture, but you're looking at a smaller picture, and I'm not saying abortion is a small picture, it's a big picture, because too many millions of babies lost their lives. But you got to look at this. What are you doing to try and stop or curtail many of the abortions in your neighborhood? Because there are things that you can do and stop relying on the Democratic Party to do it for you. There's a Planned Parenthood across the street from your house. Have you ever did anything? Have you ever went to a town hall meeting? Have you ever went to your alderman? All right. Have you ever made leaflets? Have you ever talked to your neighbors? Have you ever done anything to try to get that thing out of your neighborhood? You understand? Have you joined any kind of other organization or subgroup to see what you can do to get this stuff quelled? Or it's the law. Abortion is the law. There's nothing you can do about it. They're trying to get Amy in there, and she'll probably get in there and be the dividing vote and all this stuff. And they want to reverse Roe versus Wade and all that stuff. So if you focus just on that, you might want to take a different look and say, well, if I keep focusing on that, putting all of my ducks in that, and say, no, I can't vote for that party, but these 10, 15, 20 things that could possibly benefit you and your posterity for another 100 years, you ain't looking at the big picture, then you might want to think about it. Do you understand what I'm saying? That applies to the Republican Party as well. What are they for? Are you just looking at the racist and the white supremacist in that party? Or does the aspect of big government for you? Maybe they do have a plan for a better medical, a healthcare program, okay? Maybe they do have a better plan for black employment. Maybe they do have maybe they do, all right? But if you're looking at one man and his wild and rogue ways, maybe you're missing the big picture. So that's why I'm not telling y'all who to vote for. Look at the big picture. Do you understand? You understand? The policies are important. Stop shaming these young unwed mothers. Encourage abstinence. That's Raymond Perry. Blessings, sir. Come on, you better preach this. You better preach this. The church has been hoodwinked. We should have been raised up God. Ooh, that's true, RW. Y'all preaching here. The problem is that we want someone else to do response. Yeah, y'all better preach this. I actually hate the saying vote and the lesser of the two evils. Yes, it's what it is. We're not choosing the next bishop. That's it, Buddy Gill. Come on. So do y'all understand what I'm saying? Understanding these principles in lieu of political rhetoric of the Cuff believes that God has elected some king appointed rule despite his crimes and yeah, that see? Y'all, come on, y'all. Y'all preach it. Abraham Lincoln was Republican, all the credit. Yeah, RW came in here late. I talked about a whole 20 minutes on the Abraham Lincoln and the Republican Party. The church became the extension of the plantation. Yeah. Oh yeah. Hey Johnson, blessings to you and your amazing husband. I love that man. I love him. He hits me up in the inbox and I just smile. That's a good man right there. All right. Now listen, y'all. It was tough for the black man in the 1960s under a Democratic rule. Even though we had a man who had passed the Civil Rights Bill. I don't know if some of you heard of it, but it was called the No Man in the House law. Do y'all remember that? The No Man in the House law. Do y'all in the comments, can y'all tell me what that is? Unfortunately, we live in a country where they are trying to legislate Christianity instead of evangelizing. Yeah, Brentic, white evangelicals walked away from God. Black Pentecostals did the same thing, and what we did was we ran to politics. No evangelizing. When you see anything in politics, nothing spiritual about it. You don't love me. I do love you, Noreen. Did I skip something? Okay. The breakdown of the African American family. Yes, Raymond. The no man. All right, now. That was under a Democratic administration. The no man in the house. That wasn't a Republican situation. Did not bring abortion into being only assured safety. Okay, that's what Joanne says. All right, only assured safety. True, that's true. To get where I want to do a whole show on Roe versus Wade, Joanne. I'm gonna do a whole show on that. It was to get black men out of the house if their counterparts were in need of government assistance. Yes. The no man. Yes. The Claudine effect. Yes. There it is. Okay. Now, yes, the Great Society. Yes. Now, why? When whites blame blacks for their own downtrodden and their plight, there was systemic racism going on, government-funded system racism. All right, where in the North, black men were working in the factories. What happened though, that the factories decided to move their factories to the suburban areas. If you didn't have a car, you couldn't go to the suburbs. Understand? Number two, public transportation just didn't go that far. Understand? So what was happening? Black men began to lose their jobs left and right, and they had to stay home. So what happened? They had to feed the family. So what happened? They had to get on public assistance. So what happened? Well, you went down there and they says, we'll give you assistance, but the man can't be here. He got to go. So what happened? In order for the man to support his wife and children, he volunteered and got out of that house. And he went to move in with her relatives or the YMCA, or some of them literally became homeless. They left so that the checks could come to the house to feed his family. The Claudine effect, pretty much what it was, all right? And that kept going, and it kept going, it kept widening and widening, and then what happened? Then you started seeing where the system was awarding the women for having more children. Well, guess what that was doing? All right, so more babies were being born, no father in the home, and then on. And then what that did, one hand scratched the back, whatever, okay? Because that no man in the house law actually helped the prison system. So the war on drugs, okay, and the prison system and all these things, they all helped each other. So you can't continue to blame black men for all of this stuff when it was set up in this system at the beginning to destroy the black family, hoodwinked by the devil. It was lies. I know this would probably be another whole show, but the Republican position in pro-life is a conditional to me. So we're not going to kill the baby or the fetus. We still, making it legal to do so. That's going to be another show. But you bring up a good point there, buddy. All of the town hall meetings have been on Zoom in town. Oh, okay. Who y'all talking to? What y'all talking about? It was the greatest ploy to break up the family unit. Yep. And it worked. It worked. It worked. That's the reason a woman would be quick to say, I don't need a man. Come on, Pitts. It worked. It worked. The New World Order is coming. Martial law is here. And yeah, you're right, man. You're right. All right. All right. Let me shut it down, y'all. That's when people came up with in the closet. Yeah, Yvonne, you better give me some history. That's good. That's good. That's good. So how did it affect the white family, or did it? What, the no man in the house? It left more money on the table for many of the white families, because many of the men had to go out there, and he wasn't leaving his family. The strong men were not leaving their families. So what happened? So they couldn't get the public aid. So he had to go out there and get odd jobs. How do I know? My father had a long talk with me a couple of years ago. We were driving to South Dakota for a funeral, and he gave me the whole gist of what was going on in the 1960s and 70s. He said, son, your mama was pregnant, was having these babies, and we needed money. We needed help. And we went down there to the public aid office, and they pretty much says, sir, are you in the house? He says, now I found a way. He says that no man in the house law began to be relaxed. I see a clock keeper. He says, but what they decided to do was sterilize your mom. He says, if you want to stay on the public aid, we have to sterilize your mom. Can't have no more babies. And my father says, that's when I says, that's it. That's enough. I cannot rely on the government to take care of my family. I'm the priest of the house, and I'm going through all this. He says, no. And he says, so I stopped the public aid. Because I remember them public aid stamps, or whatever you call those, would come in through the mail. Actually, mom would go down to the public aid office and get a big old envelope of all them stamps. Y'all remember those stamps? And then they give it a little money. And then we go down into the store and have 2 and 3 carts of food, man. Food everywhere, bro, because them stamps. And then one day it stopped. No stamps. I'm like, okay, what's going on? But we never stopped eating. We was eating just as good without it, because my father said, I can't do this. I can't allow the government to take care of my family. And it was 9 of us. Sleeping on bunk beds. And my father went out there and hustled. He hustled and hustled. I saw him hustling, and blood, sweat, tears, coming home dirty and stanky, because he was a carpenter and he was a plumber and he was a masonry. He did everything just to keep us alive. All right, he'd come in there smelling like doo-doo. All right, he had fecal matter in his hair, and he'd come home late night, sometimes 2, 3 in the morning, and he'd come home and sit on the couch. And my mama, who loved my father, everything about my father she loved, and she didn't care how much doo-doo and he had piss on his clothes because he was draining and rotting somebody's basement. He'd come home, sit on the couch, and my mama would sit on my daddy's lap and curl her body up in my father and kiss him, and rock in his arms. She didn't care how much he stank. That was her king. That was her savior right there. He was taking care of his family to keep us off of those stamps, and he was feeding us. And then my father, I'd be sitting on the floor. Sometimes I'd still be up, all right, watching some rerun, okay. And I'd be on the floor, and my mama, she would have a plate of food, because she had cooked for all of us, and she'd bring his plate in. It'd be a tall plate. My father, he can eat good, and she had a plate of food, and she'd bring the plate to my daddy, and he set it in his lap, and then my father would say these words: "Did Michael eat?" She said, "Yes." "Did Rodney eat?" "Yes." "Did Larry eat?" "Yes." "Did Walter eat?" "Yes, baby." "Did Dwayne eat?" "Yes." "Did David eat?" "Yes." "Did Justin eat?" "Yes." "Did Janina eat?" "Yes." "Did Precious eat?" "Yes." She says, "Now eat, baby." And then his next thing he'll say, "Did Michael have enough?" "Yes." "Did Rodney have enough?" "Yes." "Did Larry eat until he was full?" "Yes." "What about Walter?" "Yes." She said, "Now eat, baby." And then he started eating. And then he looked over at me. He see me on the floor. He said, "Son, you all right? You hungry?" And my mama would look at me like, "Shut up." "Shut up." "All right. Are you hungry? All right. Here, come eat from my plate." That was my father every night. Come eat from my plate. Because he would not eat a morsel until all the kids Not only did they eat, he wanted to make sure they were full. That's my father, Lawrence C. Jones Jr. He's still living today, just as sharp as he can be. Okay, that was him, and he went down that list. He didn't do that just one day. He did that for years. Yeah, right. But he said, "This gonna be all day." Yeah, he went down that list. It was 9 of us. I don't know how my daddy did it on his salary of digging the doo-doo out of y'all's toilets. How was my daddy? And to this day, I honor him. And what he was doing, he was strategic. He was going in the neighborhoods, buying up property, going out there and fixing it and buying them up. So now, my father, he don't care. He don't care who the president is. He don't care. He don't care about that stuff. My father is sitting on a nice little piece of nest egg that he built, all right, by being patient, but doing what God says, take care of your children. Understand? And so my brothers and my sisters do the same thing. All right. When I got married and started having children, I'd come home and say the same thing. Babe, did Junior eat? Yeah, but did he eat till he's filled? Why you always do that? I said, because I saw my father do this. Did he eat till he's filled? Is he filled? Because I can't touch this morsel until I know that my son is full. You know, and that's it. So the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, says that black fathers are in the children's life more than almost any other race in America. Stop believing the hype that black men are lazy, shiftless, no good, don't care about their children. They may not be in the home, all right, but there's someone else looking after the children. They come over and take the kids out the house and take them for a walk, take them to the playground, or take them to the movies and help them with their homework. That's the Center for Disease Control says black men are in the kids' life more than almost any other race in America. Don't believe the hype, y'all. Don't believe it. Understand? All right? Sorry I gotta go because clock keeper is ringing the bell. Ringing the bell. Plus, I need to go and sit down and eat some morsels and enjoy the rest of my evening. All right, I'm with my babies right now, and I'm just enjoying my little short vacation. Okay, it's real short because when I get back to the shot down, pray for me. Gotta go, y'all. I love you. Ain't nothing you can do about it. Vote. Please vote. If you already did it, thank you. You did your service because your forefathers died for it. We appreciate it. We appreciate you. If you're going to vote on November 3rd because you don't agree and believe in the mail-in votes, well, you may be waiting in a long line, but stay there. Rain, hail, sleet, storm, earthquake, just stay there. Maybe not earthquake, but stay in that line until you get up in that thing and pull the lever or write the pen or punch the hole, do whatever you can, and then go home and say, well, I did my duty. Now, God, you do the rest. I love y'all, and ain't nothing you can do about it. We'll see you later, okay? I appreciate you. Hey, get my book. The white woman gonna tell you where to get it. I love y'all. Bye. Oh, hit the share button, please. There's about 115 of y'all. Take your thumb if you're on YouTube and smash it with your Democratic Republican finger. All right? Turn the fuchsia red, white, and blue. Love you.
Fellas, does it seem like you can't get a good woman? Ladies, wonder why you can't keep a man? Then read The 4 Women That Men Desire, Volume 1, by Sirwalterj to figure out how to break the cycle. Go to Amazon.com to get your copy today.
Well, goodbye. 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 Enjoy yourself. Bye. Goodbye.